Have you ever felt that profound, unsettling sensation of looking at someone you once swore would be a permanent fixture in your life, only to realize you no longer recognize the person standing before you? Or perhaps even more disturbingly, you no longer recognize the version of yourself you become when you are in their presence. That familiar ache in your chest when you notice conversations have grown shallow, silences have become heavy with unspoken truths, and what once felt like an unbreakable bond now seems fragile, almost superficial. Then, the insidious question begins to gnaw at your mind. Is it me? Is there something inherently wrong with me for no longer fitting into this relationship that once meant everything? The answer, as painful as it might initially appear, could very well lie in your burgeoning emotional maturity. And this, far from being a flaw, is a testament to your ongoing evolution. However, this evolution often exacts a price, a toll that no one explicitly warned you about, and it is precisely this intricate interplay of growth and loss that Abraham Maslow dedicated years of his life to meticulously studying and attempting to comprehend. He observed that as individuals begin their ascent up the intricate steps of the hierarchy of needs, moving steadily towards the pinnacle of self-actualization, they do not merely alter their perspective on themselves, they fundamentally transform the very nature of the connections they are capable of sustaining with others. What Maslow meticulously uncovered in his extensive research with self-actualized individuals was a truth that many prefer to sidestep or outright ignore. The more profoundly you mature emotionally, the more discerning and selective you inevitably become about who you allow to walk alongside you on your journey. This selectivity is not born of arrogance, nor does it stem from a misplaced sense of superiority. Rather, it arises from the undeniable fact that the core needs that now drive and motivate you are fundamentally different from the needs that once propelled you forward. When you attempt to cling to or maintain bonds that are predicated on needs you have long since transcended, you are not honoring your hard-won growth. Instead, you are, in a very real sense, betraying the person you have fought so valiantly to become. Maslow's most profoundly unsettling discovery was not solely about the pathways to achieving self-actualization. It was, perhaps more significantly, about the invisible, often unacknowledged cost that you invariably incur when you evolve emotionally, particularly when those in your immediate orbit remain ensnared in earlier, more rudimentary levels of needs. He meticulously documented why this disparity inevitably creates a chasm, a distance that no amount of sheer willpower, no lingering vestige of nostalgia, can ever truly bridge or eliminate. Today, we will meticulously unpack precisely how your burgeoning emotional maturity is, in fact, severing ties that you once pledged would endure for an eternity. This severance is not because you have somehow transformed into a malevolent or unkind individual. On the contrary, it is because you have courageously transformed into someone authentically real. And the profound distinction between these two states is the very essence of what Maslow so earnestly endeavored to teach us about the often steep price of embracing true authenticity. He meticulously studied individuals who had attained profound levels of personal development and, through his rigorous observations, discerned a recurring, undeniable pattern. Virtually all of them carried stories of relationships that simply could not withstand the transformative power of their personal growth. This was not a mere coincidence or an unfortunate happenstance. It was, in fact, an intrinsic and fundamental component of the arduous yet ultimately rewarding process of becoming the person you are truly destined to be. For there exists a brutal, unvarnished truth that very few are willing to openly acknowledge. Not everyone who embarked on this intricate journey with you is adequately equipped, either emotionally or psychologically, to reach the elevated destination you are now striving for. To attempt to shoulder their burden, to try and carry them across this ever-widening chasm, ultimately serves no one. It merely postpones the inevitable, and perhaps more critically, depletes the precious energy reserves that you so desperately require to continue your own arduous ascent. Maslow's initial foray into understanding this complex phenomenon began with his in-depth study of a woman in her early 30s whom he referred to as Eleanor. Eleanor had for years maintained a close-knit circle of friends from her college days, a group bound by shared youthful experiences, inside jokes, and a collective nostalgia for simpler times. Their relationships were primarily rooted in what Maslow would categorize as belongingness and love needs, providing a sense of community, acceptance, and emotional support. However, as Eleanor embarked on a journey of profound personal and professional growth, delving into advanced studies in psychology and dedicating herself to a demanding career in social justice, she began to experience a subtle yet persistent dissonance within these long-standing friendships. Her conversations with her friends, once vibrant and engaging, now felt increasingly trivial, while they continued to discuss weekend plans, celebrity gossip, and relationship woes. Eleanor found herself yearning for deeper dialogues about existential meaning, societal impact, and the complexities of human consciousness. She started to feel a growing sense of isolation, not from a lack of company but from a profound lack of intellectual and emotional resonance. Her friends, still largely operating within the framework of safety and belongingness needs, found Eleanor's newfound intellectual pursuits and her intense focus on self-actualization somewhat alienating. They perceived her as having changed, as becoming too serious or too academic. They often joked about her deep thoughts, a light-hearted teasing that, over time, began to feel like a subtle dismissal of her evolving identity. Eleanor, in turn, felt a profound guilt for no longer deriving the same satisfaction from these interactions, for feeling a quiet impatience when her friends recounted stories that once captivated her. Maslow observed that Eleanor was experiencing a classic conflict. Her needs had shifted dramatically up the hierarchy. She was now driven by esteem needs, seeking recognition for her competence and achievement, and, more importantly, by self-actualization needs, striving to fulfill her unique potential and contribute meaningfully to the world. Her friends, however, remained largely anchored in the lower tiers, their primary concerns revolving around social acceptance, stability, and superficial connection. The emotional maturity Eleanor had cultivated, her relentless pursuit of growth, had inadvertently created an unbridgeable gap. It wasn't that her friends were bad people. They simply weren't evolving at the same pace or in the same direction. The ties, once so strong, began to fray, not with a dramatic snap, but with a slow, agonizing unraveling, leaving Eleanor with a bittersweet understanding that some connections, no matter how cherished, are simply not built to withstand the transformative currents of personal evolution. This initial case illuminated for Maslow the profound truth that growth, while liberating, is also inherently isolating in certain contexts, forcing individuals to shed old skins and, by extension, old relationships that no longer fit. As Maslow continued his research, he encountered numerous similar patterns, each case adding another layer to his understanding of this phenomenon. He studied a successful entrepreneur, Robert, who, after achieving significant financial security and societal recognition, began to feel an overwhelming sense of emptiness. Robert had spent decades climbing the corporate ladder, driven by a powerful need for security and esteem. His social circle was largely composed of business associates and colleagues who shared his ambition and celebrated his material successes. However, once he reached the pinnacle of his career, Robert found himself questioning the very foundations of his life. He started exploring philosophy, meditation, and philanthropy, seeking a deeper sense of purpose and meaning. His old friends, still engrossed in the competitive world of business, found his new interests perplexing and, at times, even threatening. They couldn't comprehend why someone who had everything would suddenly abandon the pursuit of more. Their conversations, once centered on market trends and investment strategies, now felt hollow to Robert, who yearned to discuss ethics, consciousness, and the human condition. He realized that his relationships had been transactional, built on shared goals of material acquisition and social status, rather than on genuine emotional or intellectual resonance. The emotional maturity he gained through his existential questioning and his pursuit of self-actualization revealed the superficiality of these bonds. He wasn't looking for validation or status anymore. He was looking for meaning and authentic connection. This shift in needs created an insurmountable barrier between him and his former companions. Robert's journey highlighted that even relationships built on shared ambition can crumble when one individual's needs transcend the material and enter the realm of the spiritual and existential. Another compelling case was that of Maria, a gifted artist who, after years of struggling to gain recognition, finally achieved critical acclaim. For much of her life, Maria's relationships were characterized by a desperate need for belongingness and acceptance, often leading her to tolerate unhealthy dynamics and suppress her true artistic vision to please others. Her friends were often those who offered her comfort and validation, even if that validation sometimes came at the cost of her authenticity. As her art matured and she gained confidence in her unique voice, Maria began to shed the need for external approval. She started to prioritize her artistic integrity and her own inner compass over the opinions of others. This newfound emotional maturity, a direct manifestation of her moving towards self-actualization, made her acutely aware of the subtle manipulations and passive-aggressive behaviors that had permeated some of her long-standing friendships. She realized that some friends had thrived on her insecurity, offering support that subtly reinforced her dependence on them. As Maria became more self-assured and less reliant on external validation, these dynamics became unbearable. She found herself unable to engage in the old patterns of seeking approval or playing small to make others comfortable. The relationships, once a source of comfort, now felt stifling and inauthentic. Maria's experience demonstrated that emotional maturity often involves developing a keen awareness of relational dynamics and a refusal to participate in those that no longer serve one's growth, even if it means letting go of people who were once perceived as pillars of support. These cases, and many others Maslow documented, revealed a consistent pattern. As individuals progress up the hierarchy of needs, their fundamental motivations shift. Those primarily concerned with physiological and safety needs seek stability, security, and basic comfort. Relationships at this level often revolve around mutual support in meeting these fundamental requirements. As individuals move to belongingness and love needs, relationships become about acceptance, affection, and a sense of community. Esteem needs drive individuals to seek recognition, respect, and a sense of accomplishment, and their relationships might reflect a desire for validation or shared achievement. However, when an individual begins to seriously pursue self-actualization, their motivations become intrinsically driven. They are no longer primarily seeking external validation, security, or even belonging in the conventional sense. Instead, they are driven by a desire to fulfill their unique potential, to contribute, to grow, and to live authentically in alignment with their deepest values. This profound shift in motivation inevitably alters their relational needs. They begin to seek relationships characterized by deep intellectual resonance, shared purpose, mutual growth, and unconditional acceptance of their authentic selves. They crave connections that challenge them, inspire them, and allow them to express their full, evolving identity without judgment or constraint. This is where the inherent danger lies. When one person in a long-standing relationship begins this ascent towards self-actualization, while the other remains anchored in lower-level needs, a fundamental misalignment occurs. The person pursuing self-actualization might find the conversations of their old friends trivial, their concerns superficial, and their resistance to growth frustrating. Conversely, the friends might perceive the self-actualizing individual as distant, arrogant, or simply different in a way they cannot comprehend or relate to. This isn't a judgment of character. It's a divergence of fundamental life priorities and motivational drivers. The self-actualizing individual is no longer content with merely existing. They are driven to become. This drive often means shedding old habits, old beliefs, and yes, old relationships that no longer support their trajectory. The solution, or rather the path forward, often involves a painful but necessary process of re-evaluating all relationships. It requires an honest assessment of whether a connection genuinely supports one's growth or actively hinders it. It demands the courage to acknowledge that some people, no matter how much history you share, are simply not meant to accompany you on the next phase of your journey. This isn't about abandoning people. It's about honoring your own path and recognizing that not every relationship is designed to be eternal. At this point in our exploration, I want to pause and invite you into a deeper, more intimate conversation. If you have ever felt this profound shift, this quiet ache of outgrowing connections that once defined you. If you have experienced the bittersweet realization that your personal evolution has created an unbridgeable distance between you and those you once held dear, then you are not alone. This is a universal, albeit often unspoken aspect of the human journey towards self-actualization. It is a testament to your courage and your commitment to growth. I want to hear your story, to understand your unique experience of this phenomenon. Have you found yourself navigating the complex emotional landscape of evolving beyond cherished friendships or even family dynamics? Have you felt the quiet guilt of no longer resonating with conversations that once brought comfort, or the frustration of being misunderstood by those who knew you before? Your insights are invaluable, not just to me, but to countless others who are silently grappling with these very same feelings. Sharing your journey helps to normalize this often isolating experience and fosters a sense of collective understanding. So, if this resonates deeply within you, if you recognize a part of your own story in what we've discussed, please take a moment to share your thoughts in the comments below. You can simply copy and paste this phrase to get started. I've felt the quiet pull of growth creating distance, and it's both liberating and heartbreaking. Let's build a space where we can openly discuss the true cost and profound reward of emotional maturity. Maslow's studies also revealed cases of both success and failure in navigating these relational shifts. Success wasn't defined by maintaining all old relationships, but by the individual's ability to embrace their evolving needs and forge new, more resonant connections, or to transform existing ones. For instance, David, a former soldier who struggled with PTSD, found solace and purpose in advocating for veterans' rights. As he healed and moved toward self-actualization, his need for deep, empathetic understanding grew. His old drinking buddies, who offered superficial camaraderie and distraction, eventually faded from his life. David, however, actively sought out new connections with fellow advocates, therapists, and individuals who shared his passion for social change. These new relationships, built on shared purpose and mutual understanding of complex emotional landscapes, were far more fulfilling and supportive of his continued growth. He didn't mourn the loss of his old friendships as failures, but rather recognized them as stepping stones that served a purpose at a different stage of his life. His success lay in his conscious choice to align his social environment with his evolving self. Conversely, Maslow observed individuals who, out of fear, guilt, or a deep-seated need for external validation, resisted the natural progression of their emotional maturity. Sarah, a brilliant academic, found herself increasingly stifled by her family's traditional expectations and her childhood friends' provincial outlook. She yearned to explore new cultures, engage in philosophical debates, and pursue groundbreaking research. However, her family subtly pressured her to stay close to home, to prioritize family gatherings over academic conferences, and to maintain the status quo. Her friends, comfortable in their familiar routines, often made her feel too much when she expressed her intellectual passions. Sarah, fearing loneliness and the disapproval of her loved ones, consciously suppressed her burgeoning self-actualization needs. She continued to attend family events she found draining, engaged in superficial conversations she found unfulfilling, and even turned down opportunities for international research. The result was a profound sense of internal conflict, resentment, and a pervasive feeling of unlived potential. Maslow noted that Sarah, despite maintaining her old ties, was deeply unhappy and unfulfilled. Her failure was not in losing relationships, but in betraying her authentic self to preserve them, ultimately leading to a stagnation of her emotional and intellectual growth. These contrasting cases underscored Maslow's conviction that true emotional maturity often necessitates a willingness to let go, to embrace the discomfort of change, and to prioritize one's authentic self over the comfort of familiar but ultimately limiting connections. The journey of self-actualization is inherently one of shedding, of pruning, to allow for new, more vibrant growth. The patterns Maslow identified were not about judgment, but about understanding the fundamental mechanics of human motivation and connection. He saw that self-actualized individuals, those operating at the highest levels of his hierarchy, possessed certain characteristics that naturally led to shifts in their social circles. They exhibited a profound sense of autonomy, a strong internal locus of control, and a deep commitment to their values and purpose. This meant they were less susceptible to external pressures, less reliant on others for validation, and more likely to seek out relationships that mirrored their own depth and authenticity. They often had a smaller, more select group of close friends, characterized by mutual respect, intellectual stimulation, and a shared commitment to growth. They were comfortable with solitude, viewing it not as loneliness but as an opportunity for introspection and creative pursuit. This comfort with solitude further reduced their need to cling to relationships that no longer served them, allowing them to make choices based on genuine resonance rather than fear of being alone. Maslow also noted their peak experiences, moments of profound joy, insight, and connection to something larger than themselves. These experiences often deepened their understanding of life's meaning, making superficial interactions even less appealing. The dangers of resisting this natural evolution are manifold. Beyond the personal stagnation exemplified by Sarah, there is the risk of resentment building within relationships, as one person feels misunderstood and the other feels inadequate or left behind. There is the danger of self-betrayal, where individuals compromise their values and aspirations to maintain a semblance of connection. And perhaps most insidiously, there is the danger of never truly discovering one's full potential, of living a life that is merely a shadow of what it could be, all for the sake of preserving ties that, in their current form, are no longer life-affirming. The solution, therefore, is not to ruthlessly cut ties, but to cultivate an awareness of one's own evolving needs, to communicate openly and honestly with those around us, and to have the courage to allow relationships to transform, or, if necessary, to gently release them. It is about understanding that true love and respect sometimes mean acknowledging that paths diverge, and that the greatest act of love for oneself, and sometimes for others, is to allow for authentic growth, even if it leads to separation. This journey of emotional maturity, as illuminated by Abraham Maslow's profound insights, is ultimately a transformative synthesis of self-discovery and relational recalibration. It is a testament to the human spirit's innate drive towards growth, a relentless ascent up the hierarchy of needs that, while deeply rewarding, often necessitates a painful yet ultimately liberating shedding of old skins, old beliefs, and, inevitably, old connections. What we have explored today is not a narrative of abandonment or heartlessness, but rather a nuanced understanding of how our evolving needs fundamentally reshape our relational landscape. It is about recognizing that as you move toward self-actualization, your core motivations shift from external validation and basic security to an intrinsic yearning for purpose, authenticity, and profound resonance. This shift is not a flaw in your character. It is, in fact, the most profound evidence of your courage, your resilience, and your unwavering commitment to becoming the most authentic version of yourself. It is a sign that you are not merely existing, but truly living, truly growing, and truly evolving. If this deep dive into Maslow's theories and the intricate dance between emotional maturity and relational shifts has resonated with you, if you find yourself nodding in quiet recognition, or if a sense of clarity has begun to settle over experiences that once felt confusing and isolating, then I invite you to continue this journey with us. This channel is dedicated to exploring the profound depths of human potential, to understanding the psychological underpinnings of our struggles and triumphs, and to providing a space for genuine connection and shared growth. By subscribing, you are not just clicking a button. You are joining a community of individuals who are committed to their own evolution, who understand the often challenging yet ultimately rewarding path of self-actualization. You are choosing to surround yourself with perspectives that validate your experiences, inspire your growth, and offer guidance as you navigate the complexities of your own unique journey. We promise to continue bringing you content that challenges, enlightens, and empowers you to live a life of greater authenticity and fulfillment. Our aim is to help you find peace in understanding these often difficult truths, to gain clarity in moments of confusion, and to cultivate the kind of authentic connections that truly nourish your evolving spirit. So if you are ready to embrace your growth, to understand the profound implications of your emotional maturity, and to connect with a community that champions your authentic self, then gently click that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. It's a simple act, but it signifies your commitment to your own ongoing transformation. In our next video, we will delve even deeper into the practical strategies for consciously cultivating new, resonant relationships that truly support your self-actualization journey, exploring how to identify kindred spirits and build bonds that are built to last, not just through shared history, but through shared purpose and mutual growth. Thank you for being here, for your openness, and for your courage to explore these essential truths. Your journey is important, and we are honored to be a part of it. If this deep dive into Maslow's theories and the intricate dance between emotional maturity and relational shifts has resonated with you, if you find yourself nodding in quiet recognition, or if a sense of clarity has begun to settle over experiences that once felt confusing and isolating, then I invite you to continue this journey with us. This channel is dedicated to exploring the profound depths of human potential, to understanding the psychological underpinnings of our struggles and triumphs, and to providing a space for genuine connection and shared growth. By subscribing, you are not just clicking a button. You are joining a community of individuals who are committed to their own evolution, who understand the often challenging yet ultimately rewarding path of self-actualization. You are choosing to surround yourself with perspectives that validate your experiences, inspire your growth, and offer guidance as you navigate the complexities of your own unique journey. We promise to continue bringing you content that challenges, enlightens, and empowers you to live a life of greater authenticity and fulfillment. Our aim is to help you find peace in understanding these often difficult truths, to gain clarity in moments of confusion, and to cultivate the kind of authentic connections that truly nourish your evolving spirit. So if you are ready to embrace your growth, to understand the profound implications of your emotional maturity, and to connect with a community that champions your authentic self, then gently click that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. It's a simple act, but it signifies your commitment to your own ongoing transformation. In our next video, we will delve even deeper into the practical strategies for consciously cultivating new, resonant relationships that truly support your self-actualization journey, exploring how to identify kindred spirits and build bonds that are built to last, not just through shared history, but through shared purpose and mutual growth. Thank you for being here, for your openness, and for your courage to explore these essential truths. Your journey is important, and we are honored to be a part of it. Because here is what I have learned from years of studying Maslow's work and witnessing countless individuals navigate this exact transformation. You are not meant to walk this path alone, but you are meant to walk it with intention about who walks beside you. There is a profound difference between loneliness and solitude, between isolation and selective connection, and understanding that difference is what separates those who thrive in their growth from those who abandon it out of fear of being alone. When you subscribe to this community, you are acknowledging something incredibly brave, that you would rather be temporarily alone and authentic than permanently surrounded and performing. And that choice, that single decision, is what Maslow identified as the turning point in every person's journey towards self-actualization. He noticed that individuals who reached the highest levels of human potential all shared one characteristic. They had learned to tolerate the discomfort of outgrowing relationships without immediately filling the void with replacements, just to avoid the feeling of emptiness. And in that sacred space of intentional solitude, they discovered something far more valuable than comfort. They discovered clarity about what they truly needed from human connection. What we are building here is not just a collection of videos about psychology and personal growth. We are creating a sanctuary for those who have felt the profound loneliness of being the only person in their circle, asking deeper questions, the only one questioning patterns that everyone else seems content to repeat, the only one willing to examine their wounds instead of just covering them with distractions. If you have ever sat in a room full of people and felt completely alone because no one was speaking the language of growth, of authenticity, of genuine self-examination, then you already know why this community matters. Maslow wrote extensively about the experience of what he called the self-actualizing person's loneliness, this peculiar isolation that comes not from being rejected by others, but from seeing realities that others cannot or will not see, from valuing things that the majority dismisses as unimportant or too complicated. He observed that these individuals often felt like strangers in familiar environments, like they were speaking a different language even when using the same words, and that this experience, while initially painful, was actually a sign of profound psychological health rather than dysfunction. But he also noted that these same individuals desperately needed spaces where they could be fully seen and understood, where their depth was not threatening but welcomed, where their questions were not dismissed but explored together. That is precisely what happens when you become part of this community. You will find yourself among people who understand why you had to let go of that friendship that everyone else thought was perfect, who comprehend why you needed to step away from family dynamics that others insist you should just accept, who recognize why you cannot simply go back to who you were before you started asking these uncomfortable questions about meaning and purpose and authenticity. Every week, we dive into the psychological principles that explain what you are experiencing, not to make you feel broken or abnormal, but to help you understand that your growth, your discomfort, your difficult choices are all part of a well-documented and deeply important human process. We explore the works of Maslow and other pioneers in humanistic psychology, not as abstract theories but as practical frameworks for understanding your lived experience, for making sense of the changes happening within you and around you, for giving you language to describe transformations that feel too complex and nuanced for ordinary conversation. And here is something beautiful that happens within this community that mirrors exactly what Maslow predicted about self-actualizing individuals. You begin to attract and recognize others who are operating at similar levels of emotional and psychological development. The algorithm that brought you here was not random. It responded to patterns in your behavior, your searches, your viewing history that indicated you were ready for this level of depth and honesty. And as you continue engaging with this content, as you watch and reflect and comment and share your experiences, you send signals out into the world that you are available for deeper connection, that you are no longer satisfied with surface-level relationships, that you are actively seeking people who can meet you where you truly are. Maslow called this the recognition factor among self-actualizing people, this almost intuitive ability to identify others who share similar values around growth, authenticity, and the pursuit of human potential. He noted that these individuals could often sense each other even in brief encounters, recognizing a quality of presence, a depth of engagement, a willingness to be real that most people have learned to hide or suppress. So when you subscribe, you are not just gaining access to videos. You are positioning yourself within a network of individuals who are all doing this challenging work of choosing growth over comfort, authenticity over approval, and genuine connection over convenient proximity. You will find inspiration in the comments section, where people share their own experiences of painful but necessary relationship endings, where they celebrate small victories in boundary setting and authentic communication, where they offer support to others who are in the thick of these difficult transitions. You will discover that the feelings you thought were unique to you are actually shared by thousands of others who are walking parallel paths, and that recognition alone can be profoundly healing. Because one of the deepest wounds of emotional growth is the belief that something is wrong with you, for no longer fitting into spaces that used to feel like home. And one of the most powerful medicines is discovering that your experience is not only normal but necessary, not only shared but honored by others who have walked this path before you. In the coming weeks and months, we will continue exploring every dimension of this journey towards self-actualization. We will examine how to navigate the guilt that comes with outgrowing people you love, how to communicate your changing needs without defensiveness or apology, how to identify which relationships might evolve alongside you and which ones have reached their natural completion, how to build new connections based on mutual growth rather than mutual need, and how to create a life that reflects your authentic values, even when that life looks nothing like what you once imagined. We will dive deep into Maslow's lesser-known writings about the challenges and responsibilities that come with higher levels of psychological development, exploring not just the beauty of self-actualization but also its burdens, its loneliness, its demands. We will look at real cases from his research, examining how actual people navigated these exact transitions, what worked, what didn't, and what wisdom they gained that can illuminate your own path. And most importantly, we will do this together, as a community of fellow travelers who understand that growth is not a destination you reach, but a commitment you renew every single day. So click that subscribe button, not as a passive act of consumption, but as an active declaration of your intentions. You are saying yes to your growth, yes to the discomfort of transformation, yes to building a life of greater authenticity, even when that requires difficult choices, and yes to surrounding yourself with others who will celebrate your evolution rather than guilt you for changing. Welcome home to a community that has been waiting for you, a space where your depth is not too much, where your questions are not too complicated, where your growth is not a betrayal but a homecoming. We are genuinely grateful you are here, and we cannot wait to continue discovering these profound truths alongside you.